wanted us to come back, what you wanted us to bring back, and how you wanted us to interact with you as a board. That would be
Colfax.
Well, I want to thank staff for the work they've done on this. We had a couple of disagreements, certain points as to how fast we could go or what we needed to do. But I think this is a good start. And I am of the mind that we should take advantage of those who have done work like Mary Weaver there, who's actually done what I thought would be a good first step. It's a good second step now. But it's good. And I think that's the kind of thing we need, where we get that kind of input from community groups. I would go so far as to suggest, and I know this might result in a kind of problem for the supervisors up here. I would suggest that 2 coastal supervisors be utilized as an ad hoc committee, but the other side would be that staff would play a more major role than ordinarily is the case in committees. In other words, I am impressed by the work that is done. I'm impressed by your commitment. I may not agree with the extent to which we may be overemphasizing one theme by another. But at this point, we've had input from people from the communities. The CACs had a hard time, the CAC had a hard time building legitimacy in the eyes of staff and the supervisors back 10 years ago. And that I don't think we need to get into a situation where we try to build legitimacy of a committee. I think what we have is a committee of the whole, with the supervisors kind of catching the flack and then handing it off to the staff. And I've had a good working relationship, I believe, with staff, and I have had a good working relationship with other supervisors on this issue, and people in the community may or may not see this as something that goes in the right direction. But I would say here that a CAC at this time would be in a position of having to build legitimacy and deliver the goods on an incremental basis. We don't have the staff that can serve a CAC. That was a big problem here in the last iteration of a CAC. Didn't even have money for papers and pencils and somebody to maintain a record. What I would rather see is the supervisors and staff being staff to the community, with the community coming in and providing the kind of work and insights and understanding so that we can make this an agreeable rather than a contentious kind of issue. But we heard a few things come forward today that are potentially contentious. If there are people out there who are illegal and have to somehow be enticed in, I think that's something we have to talk about, whether that's how do we entice them to come in. If they're not enticed, then we might have to go get them on TOT, illegal units. The question as to whether units are worth a lot of money. Therefore, in a sense here, we're going to have to talk about the economics, or staff is going to have to help us talk about the economics of some of these changes. And that will be something that can be worked out systematically. But I think there's a word here that is a little bit off the mark when we talk in the materials that have been provided, where you talk about a methodology. I don't think it's so much that we need a methodology, but we need a criteria. And the methodology takes us through a process, assuming you know what the criteria are or benchmarks are. So we don't need a methodology. The methodology is going to be there once we identify certain criteria, identify the different mileposts, identify the different icons, identify the different goals. But I think that is going to be very much developed, if it's going to be developed well. It's going to be done with the good work of, I think, a good staff here that is playing a role here of providing us with the kind of work we've seen today. So I congratulate you on coming up with something. I may be wrong, maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I would think here that if we utilize the kind of work that we've seen brought forward by the community and are open and accessible to the community, and I know it's over the hills, over the way, but we can connect. In that regard, we shouldn't let geography shape this particular project. But I think here, that with a serious planning effort, we have not had a serious planning effort on this town issue in the 10 years I've been on the board. And in that regard here, let's get back to staff, let's get back to the supervisors as the supervisors with the day-to-day involvement, and we will make sure that the community has its input in a way that will be fair and fully transparent. And I think that will take us a long way down the road.
Any other board members like to comment? Supervisor Delbar?
Thank you. My concern here is, what's, Allison, where'd you go? I can't see.
Yeah, no, I know, it's,
10-foot swath right there. What's our goal today? Because all I'm getting here is a lot of different directions and not a real good focus. I thought, and maybe it's naive,